Keeping it fair is one of the most important parts of boat building. The skilled craftsmen at Wilmington Boat Works, where Chubasco was built, were masters at this. Chubasco was always admired for her stunning fair topsides. Her bottom was just as fair, and her race record is an attestament to that. When we were removing planking, we noticed that the builders had taken great care to add shims and cut bevels so that the bottom would be absolutely fair. A boat is not a geometrical shape, and the bevels and angles change constantly along the length of the frame. To check the fairness of the frames, we use a long square fair batten. The batten is about as thick as the thickness of the planking. The batten has a notch cut in it that's slightly longer than the width of the frame. When we find a high, we can put this notch over the high spot in the frame. Then we can mark it forward and aft. This will give us both the height of the frame that needs to be cut off and the bevel. We make a series of these marks all along the frame that is high, and then fair the marks with the batten or the pattern of that frame. Once the frames that are high are taken down, we can glue shims on the frames that are a little bit low. We constantly check our work with battens so that the planks will lay flat against the frames and fair along the length of the boat.
Aye, that's it, laddies. Aye, fair and sweet.
Once the frames were all fair, we could reinstall the cross-strapping. We had to remove the lower sections of cross-strapping by drilling out the rivets where they were connected in order to replace the frames behind them. To our amazement, after sandblasting, we found that the bronze was still in good condition, and we were able to reuse it. We had the strapping powder coated, and then we epoxy coated over that. Almost all of the classic sailing yachts over 50 feet have this diagonal strapping. It is a very important part of the structural integrity of a boat this size. The hull strapping transfers the load from the chain plate area down to the ballast keel and forward to the forefoot. The diagonal deck strapping distributes the load from the mast partners out to the covering boards. Chubasco has both hull strapping and deck strapping. The combination of these two sets of strapping keep the boat from twisting under load and hogging over time. Of course, you can't just go down to the hardware store and buy new rivets, so I had to make them. Like the original rivets, I made the new rivets out of silicon bronze. The bronze rod, when you buy it, is too hard to rivet. I learned from my dad that you can anneal the rod, and this softens it so that it can be easily riveted. To anneal it, I laid the rivets out on a fire brick. What you do is turn on just the acetylene and light it, Then soot the rivets. Then you add the oxygen, and by waving the rosebud over the rivets until the soot burns off, you have now annealed them. The strapping is let in flush against the frames and lays on top of the inside of the planking. Wherever metal comes in contact with wood, we coat the wood first with epoxy resin, and then we bed it with 5200. I have been using these methods in my restoration projects for over 30 years, and it has become a proven sure cure against water intrusion, corrosion, electrolysis, and delignification. Now, with the frames faired, the cross-strapping reinstalled, and the basic plank runs laid out, we're ready to begin planking. This video was brought to you by efforts through the Maritime Preservation Trust. Don't forget to subscribe, and please visit our website.